join on the show right now. Amit, hi, morning. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Amit, the Defense Procurement Manual for 2025 is the first big update that one has seen since 2009, right? Tell me, how is it that it's going to make these new rules, and how is it that it's going to make it easier for MSMEs and startups to take part in defense projects, for instance?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. So, if you recollect, as you rightly said about the manual, and there are multiple things which are the technical report which came in last month. So, if you see what government is also trying to do is to increase the MSME participation. There has been talk about the IDEX, which is for promoting the startups in the ecosystem, and only yesterday the minister also highlighted that they want to increase the participation from startups, and at least 3,000 crores has been spent or allocated to the smaller platforms. So definitely there are a lot of changes which government has been doing. I would say structural changes to localize, and apart from several steps which has been taken, which are very important for the execution in defense sector and localization of defense sector, including the local supply chain where MSME plays a greater role. Map definitely would be encouraging. So starting from the startup ecosystems to the import list which came in 2 3 years back, to the defense acquisition policies and defense production policies, all leading to the numbers which we are seeing. The domestic procurement has gone up from 74,000 to 71,000 to almost 1,20,000 in the span of 3 years. So that's a good 20% plus CAGR with respect to domestic procurement. So things have started reflecting, and government has been highly, reiterating the numbers which they are talking about, the 50,000 export and 3 lakh crore defense turnover, all indicating to at least 16-17% CAGR on the industry level. Yeah.
Okay, Amit, if I were to zoom out and talk about some specific names and the kind of moves that we've had within the defense pack now, some really small companies, sub 1 lakh crore market cap, are now trading at 3.5 lakh crore. And these are PSUs, right? So you've got, of course, these very, very strong order books, but they're also long order books. Talk to us about how much of the re-rating do you believe is complete? How much is yet to go, and what are the possibility of that, especially among the larger names, a BEL and HAL and the like?
Right. So starting with BL, as you rightly pointed out, if you see the 3 to 4 year span, the order book for all these companies is almost 2x, the increase of 2x, 3x. And this is happening because a lot of platforms have came into the production stage from development stage or the research stage over the past decade or 15 years. And second, also the fast tracking which I highlighted. So now coming back to BL, if you see even this year as well, if the QRSM is going to get cleared, which we are hearing that it is almost on the final stages of award, this year's order intake for Bharat Electronics would be 50,000 for sure. So that collectively takes all of your order intake to almost more than 1 lakh crore for BL. So that gives a great confidence that they'll be able to grow 14-15% for good 3 4 years. But having said that, as you rightly highlighted, that there would be supply chain risk, which would be greater in terms of companies like HL, which are dependent on engine, on US, on G, but I think would be lesser in terms of BL, which is localized a lot of subsystems, and on component level also they're working to localize. So many defense companies, especially PSUs, has been given kind of mandate to localize or reduce import components so that there's a robust supply chain and fast tracking of deliveries, considering that the order books have gone 3x. So I think that is where government is also working on all front to try and possibly localize, and wherever it is difficult, for example in case of engines, which is the case for HL, to also seek for transfer of technologies or other engine companies for future programs. So definitely there are steps in right direction, and the books are lumpier. But if you see, in case of HL, for example, they can grow at 13, 14 CAGR for almost a good 5, 7 years, considering even just the current order book, and some delays in engine supplies also, because there are multiple platforms which they have to deliver. So I think the opportunity is robust, and government is working toward further localization, and it is reflecting in numbers. So that gives us confidence, at least longer view, structurally things will be upward looking.
Okay, and Amit, give us the perspective on what the risks are to that execution. You're talking about 13, 14% growth for a long period of time. Is there a material risk of execution that you're seeing? And given the kind of valuations we're now staring at, so trying to understand again how much of the re-rating is done, how much of it could
Yeah.
still unwind.
That's true. So if you see, I think the key risk would be, as we have seen last year also for HL, they were not able to deliver any LCA. Since now the engine deliveries have started this year, there's a good possibility that at least 8 numbers of LCAs can be delivered. So definitely supply is a key risk where government is working towards transfer of technology with GE for future platforms, the F414 engines, and there have been government to government talks on this. So I think that is something which is a key risk. Otherwise, even today the frames are ready, but engine supply, as and when it happens, the deliveries will start. Having said that, valuation wise, if you see, a lot of defense electronic companies are still expensive, I would say. Bharat Electronics is trading at about 40 to 43x on my F27 numbers. HL relatively looks slightly, cheaper at 34x F27. And I am seeing, with respect to HL, the numbers in F28, F29 will still be robust and better than F27, 28. So there's a lot of scope there. If one is in for a longer time horizon, there's a good return possible in HL, even at current levels.
Yeah, what, Amit, what are you most bullish on within defense? How would you play it? Okay, would you play large cap? Is that the way you'd play it? Some of the smaller companies on the private side of things are doing some very interesting work. Would those look attractive to you? How would you play this theme?
So if you see broadly, in all the government statements, if you can notice, even after the Operation Sindhu, there has been talk of modernization, the way the warfare is changing, and that involves a lot of upgradation with respect to defense electronics will have a greater play versus maybe the OEMs or the other large platforms which are equally running and in focus. But I think defense electronics will see a major change and upgradation in, let's say, coming decade, as we're talking about major changes in the way warfare is done, and it has been highlighted. So I think relatively I'll be playing on defense electronics more at a reasonable valuation. As I highlighted to you, there are quite a few interesting companies, not under my coverage, but doing interesting things, have been beneficiary of a lot of company level R&D they have done in defense electronics, like Astra Microwaves and the Apollo Microsystems, beneficiary in different ways of platforms. And if you see, the growth there also has been more than 30-40% CAGR. The PAT has almost doubled, 2x, 3x. The margin threshold has been quite significant, upward of 4, 500, 7, 800 bips. So I think the large amount of delta is possible in small private companies. I highlighted few names, but not under my coverage. And especially with a very medium to longer term view, I think defense electronics in that space, small private companies can be the major beneficiaries with a 2 to 3 years perspective from here. And that's where the government is also focusing through the different notifications, as you highlighted, for MSMEs and for R&D. IDEX is one program which is currently ongoing.
Right. Okay, Amit, great to have you on the show today. Thanks for giving us that insight.